What's going on, everybody? Today I'm going to be walking through a brief video on data wrangling. I'm going to go through some tidyverse functions in R on how to just take data and kind of rearrange it and add columns that have specific values based on some kind of algorithm or something like that. And so let's hop right in. I've got my list of functions that I want to go through. So I'll pull that up. Okay. So the first thing that we're going to do is load up the tidyverse. So if you don't have this already, you'll have to do install packages, and then within that you get the tidyverse. I already have it installed, so I'm just going to load it up. Okay, not sure why that took so long, but there we have it. The next thing I'm going to do is just load up our data. So I've got this my data path, file.choose. I'm going to run this, and it is asking me to go ahead and load up some data. I have a file here that just has some NHL data in it, and that's what I will go ahead and grab. Okay, now that gives us the path name, and now we just want to use read.csv to pull that in, right? So now that is going to give us my data, which is this data frame here. You can see it's quite large, and then we're going to just remove data path. Okay, so the first function that we're going to be using is called select, and select is going to just allow us to go in and pull columns that we want. So if I open the my data frame, what we're seeing here is the data frame, and you can see there's a lot of different columns, and each column has some value in it. Some of them are strings, some of them are numbers, etc., etc. So what we can do is use select to say, like, let's get my data, but we only want the season column, the player column, the age column, the team, etc., etc. So let's go back into our script here, and we will say my data will be equal to my data, and then we'll use a pipe, and we will say select. And within select, what I can do is, instead of typing things, I can just hit tab, and tab is going to give us all of the columns within that data frame. So we will take season. We can also start typing, and it will do some autocomplete. So we'll take my data, we'll take player, let's get team, let's get games played. What else should we take? We'll take goals, and then let's also get assists, and then I can go ahead and run this, and then I'll reopen my data, and we'll see now we only have the columns. We've maintained all rows, and we've only gotten the columns that we want, and we can see team here, and so that's select, right? We can put anything in there that we want. The next thing that we'll go through is called filter, and so we're going to filter rows based on some condition. And so we'll take my data, and we will set it equal to my data. You could also set it equal to a different data frame and create a new data frame, but we're just going to keep it my data, use the same data frame. We'll call a pipe, right? And then we're going to say filter. In filter, let's say we only want to get data from the 2018 season. This is a numeric value here, so we're going to just see, we're going to say season is equal to 2018. So we'll run that. You can see we already dropped a lot of values from there, a lot of rows. And now if we look at this, we've got data just from 2018, right? Let's make this a little bit more, let's make it a little bit more complex. So let's say we wanted to filter based on season and team. So let's say we want only the data from 2018 and the Detroit Red Wings. We'll say and we'll say TM, which is the column of team, is equal to DET, which is Detroit. Oh, we get an error. So team equal. So it's saying that we have an error here because equal actually needs to be equal equal. So we'll run that, and now you can see we only have 24 observations, and that's because there's only 24 players listed in this particular data set that are on Detroit's team for the 2018 season. And so that's quite easy. All right, let's see what else we have. So that's selecting columns and then filtering based on conditions. Now, you'll notice that here I have equals equals, but you can also do greater than equals, does not equal. You can make those as complex or as simple as you'd like. So that's select and filter. The other thing you'll notice on my filter is that some of these are strings and some of these are numbers. So you can do it on multiple data types. You can filter on multiple data types as well. Okay, let's go through, let's arrange. Let's say we wanted to take our data here and we wanted to arrange it in order of goals. So we could do that. So the first thing that we're gonna have to do though is we're gonna have to change goals. You can see that it's listed as a data type factor, and we actually need it to be data type numeric to arrange it. So let's go ahead and do that first. So we'll say convert data type, and so we will say my data, and you can call in the column that you want using the $ here. So we'll say my data goals, and we're going to say as numeric, and then within as numeric we actually are going to pass in as character. So when you're going from a factor to a number, it's often better to, before you go as numeric, change it to a character value first. So we'll say my data, and then we'll call in goals again. So let's run that. It says we've got some NAs introduced. That just means there's probably somebody who had no goals within the data set, right? But the rest of these now are type numeric, so we can now start to sort those based on that. So we'll say my data will be equal to my data. We'll call in the pipe, and then we're going to say arrange, and then we will just call in goals. So let's go ahead and run that. So my data should now be arranged in order of goals. And there you have it. You see the NAs are down here at the bottom, and it's from lowest to largest. We can first of all change lowest to largest by saying within the arrange we can just add a DESC, descending. We need to end our parenthesis there, and we can run that again, and now it should be flipped. However, we still have those NAs, right? And the NAs are just kind of added onto the bottom. And what we could do is if we wanted to just put 0 in for NAs, we could say my data G for goals, and then within my data G we want to say is NA, and then pass in my data G, and we will set that equal to 0. So if we put those in there and then we arrange it again, you can see that we've changed those NAs to zeros, and they are now holding some numeric values. So they'll be placed basically wherever they should go in the arrange. In this case, because we're going largest to smallest, they're put at the end, right? Okay, so that's arrange. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove my data and reload it, because the next few things that I want to go through will help, especially the group by function. But actually, you know what? Before we do group by, let's go ahead and do a mutate. And before I do mutate, I'm going to take what I did with my my data goals, and I'm going to do the same thing with my data assists. So I'm going to copy this, and I will paste it. Scroll up so we have a little bit of room. So I'm going to take my data assists, which is also comes in, it's loaded as a factor, and I'm going to change it to a numeric. Okay, so let's go ahead and run those two as well. And then we're going to come down here, and the next thing we're going to do is called mutate. So let's make sure that assist was successfully changed. Yep, you can see there it is. Okay, so it's now a numeric. Okay, so what mutate is going to do is it's going to create a new column with data specified by something within the mutate call. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say my data is equal to my data, and then I'm going to give a pipe, and I'm going to say mutate. And within mutate, I'm going to give it a new column name. So I'm going to say PTS, or points, is going to be equal to goals plus assists. And what this is going to do is it's going to take goals plus assists, and it's going to create a new column with the number of, or with the sum of those two things, right? So I'll run that, and then I'm going to go into my data, and we can see we have a new column here called points, and points is the sum of each row's goals and assists, right? So we can see that. And then what we could do if we really wanted to is we could add on to those things, right? So far what I've been showing is basically just my data, and then you call one function, but you can call multiple functions, right? So if we wanted to, we could call in something like this. We could say my data, and then before mutate we could say select. Let's not do that. Let's wait. We'll do, let me clear the workspace, reload the data, and then I'll do multiple function calls to the same set of data. So let's go ahead and clear out our workspace and reload things, and then we will jump down again. So let's go ahead and reload our data. You can see, I mean, it's very, very easy using R, using the Tidyverse. It's really easy to do a lot of this stuff. It's easy if you've got large data sets that you need to manipulate or work with. I highly recommend R's Tidyverse. It's similar to Python's Pandas. So if you have any familiarity with that, this is very similar. Okay, so now we've got my data reloaded, and we're just going to hop down here to where the end was. And the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to use a group by in mutate. So what group by is going to do is it's going to group things by some factor level. So we'll say group by. It's going to group things by a factor level, and then only run the operation that you want within each group. Right, so let's say I wanted to do this same mutate here where I wanted to get goals and assists, and then I wanted to mutate to give us a, let's say this, what if I wanted to get a rank based on goals and assists, or just based on goals? So if I wanted to take each team and rank within each team the players based on how many goals they scored, I would have to group by the team, and then mutate to form a new column called rank that is based on the order or the number of goals that they've scored. So what I would do is I've got my data. I would say I would do our select call here. So let's take this. We'll say my data is my data select. So what this again is doing is it's taking my data and it's just taking these columns. Let's say I also wanted to run the filter that we did on the same call. So we'll say my data, and then we'll call in filter. And what did we filter before? We wanted season was equal to 2018, and no, let's not do the team. Let's just do season is equal to 2018. So now what we have is just the columns that we selected, and season is equal to 2018. So within here, what you can see is that we've got the team. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to group these data by team, and then I'm going to add a column that is the rank, and the rank is going to be based on the number of goals that they scored. Right? So each team will have their players, and each player will be assigned a rank based on their goal. Before I do that, what I have to do is, because my data season, or because my data season is a number, that's fine because we're not grouping by it. Team has to be a factor for us to group on it, so let's make sure that's the case. That is the case. Okay. And then the other thing that we're going to have to do is we're going to have to, again, convert this goals and assists from a factor to a numeric. So I'll copy this, paste it here, and we will run those. And actually, we don't have to do assists because we're ranking based on goals. It has nothing to do with assists. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that and that. And now we can get to what we actually care about, which is the group by and then the mutate. So we're going to say my data is equal to my data. Go ahead and give it the pipe here. And then we will group by. So this is going to group by team. And then once it's grouped, what we're going to do is we're going to mutate. And we are going to call in, we're going to say goal rank. And that's going to be equal to the rank. And within rank, we're going to say goals. And then we're going to give it a ties method. So if two people have the same number of goals, we're going to say just rank whoever came first in the data set as a higher rank, so that this doesn't, if you don't do this, you're going to assign the same rank to both players. To avoid creating two players with the same rank, we'll give it a ties method at first. And remember when we arranged goals, it gave us lowest to highest, and we did descend to alter that. The other thing that we could do is pop a negative in there, right? So negative is going to give us lowest to highest. And if you put negative in goals here, it's not going to change the goals column. It's just going to basically do what descend does. So let's go ahead and run this and then take a look. It's going to be maybe a little difficult to see because the teams are separated, but what we can do to get a better look at this is say my data and set that equal to, actually, let's do this, my data, and then we will call my data and arrange by team. So now it's gonna, it should arrange us by the team here. All right, so then within Anaheim, you can see here's all the ranks. All right, so rank 1 here for Anaheim has 34 goals. That should be the highest. Anaheim ends right here. So, yep, that's the highest. And then you can see when you come down to Arizona, Arizona has different rankings now, right? So their number 1 is right here. And so you can see that basically this group by team before it ran the rank. And so each team will have its own set of ranks. Okay, the next one I'm going to go through is called rename. And this is just an easy way to rename columns. And so we'll just say, let's say we wanted to take TM and rename it to team, and G, which is goals, and rename that to goals because G and TM are maybe too short. They're not descriptive enough. So what we would do is we would say my data equal to my data pipe. And then we will just very simply call in rename. And with rename, what we want is we want to give the new name is equal to the old name. So if we wanted to rename TM to teams, we would just do this. It's equal to TM. And you can pass multiple columns into here. So we will say goals equal to G. And let's go ahead and run this. And then we should see those column changes. Yep. So where this used to be TM, it's now teams. Where this used to be G, it is now goals. And then you can do some other things too, right? So we can take, let's see, if we wanted to do replace some of the team names with their actual names. So if we wanted to change, let's say ARI to Arizona, we could just do, we could call in string replace. So we will say string replace, And string replace works really easily, so we'll say my data is equal to my data, and then we will call in, I keep doing that, we'll call in str replace, and within string replace what we're going to do is call out the string that we want to replace, which is ARI, and we want to give it Arizona. Right. Oops. So actually what we need to do, oh, now my data is kind of ruined, but what we need to do is we need to call in the actual thing here. So my data teams. We need to reload our data because I just messed that one up. That's okay. Okay, so now let's run through these things that we did again. Let's select and filter, and then let's select yes, so we selected and filtered it, and now let's try my data teams ARI. Oh, it's still TM. Okay. So remember that we ran through a bunch of stuff before I goofed up there. So there you have it. So we ran that. Our team, we're looking for instances of ARI to be switched to Arizona. Okay, so you see here, here's some Arizonas, right? So these used to be ARIs. We just went through that column, looked for ARI, and replaced it with Arizona. All right, well, those are really the only ones that I've got here. There's all sorts of great tidyverse functions. I really highly recommend it, and maybe I'll make another video going through some of the more complicated ones, but select, filter, group by, mutate, those are all really, really useful and very, very easy to learn, so I highly recommend it. All right, if you enjoyed that video, go ahead and give it a like. Go ahead and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter. You can see a lot of my code. I've got an entire data wrangling in our repository on GitHub, so check that out. And then you can also find me on LinkedIn and ResearchGate. All right, until next time, keep coding.